All right, happy Tuesday, Pierre. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing well. I'm excited about Tuesday.
Yeah. Listen, it was good seeing you this weekend. So for those who don't know, Pierre lives in Baltimore. I live in Tampa. My name is Kimon. And I had a chance to go do some training this weekend at a church. And Pierre, you came through. And so it was good to see you in person, man. A lot of times we are on Zooms and lives, but it's good to see you in person as we will be seeing each other in a couple of weeks. But it was good to see you there last weekend.
And I tell people all the time when you work with people, it's not just when they present with you. Like we do our training program together, but I'm a fan of your work. So if you were in town and you were doing a teaching or a training, I was definitely going to be there in the audience, taking notes and doing my homework. Some people there weren't doing their homework, but I was
That's
doing
what you're
mine.
doing your work, man. All right, y'all. If y'all are coming in watching this live, drop your city, drop your state. We want to know who is on live. And if you're watching this on the replay, do the same. We want to know the reach, those of you who are coming on, the places and the spaces that you are today. It is a little bit after lunchtime for some, and maybe it is lunchtime for you. So we're glad that you can spend some time for us. What we're going to consider a lunch and learn session. How about that, Pierre?
Mm, yeah, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. All right, let me give you all a little genesis of how this conversation started. For those who don't know, Pierre and I, we have been helping individuals over the last year plus who have incredible messages, who have been impacting people through their work, through their talks, through their speaking. And what we've been helping them do is learn how they can move it into different spaces and places to make impact, to reach individuals, and also to make income. And I thought, hey, Pierre, there is something that we do in our work that we don't talk about as much. And I want us to go live and talk about it. So if you're watching this on the live, go ahead and put your place, your space that you're watching this. We want to shout you out as we get into this conversation. Because maybe, Pierre, someone is coming on here. They're hearing us talk about speaking in the marketplace, training in the marketplace, consulting with companies in the marketplace, getting on stages or workshops or whatever it is. And their thought is, I don't have a message for the marketplace. My message is only for the church space and the educational space and the nonprofit space, but it's not for businesses and companies. So that's what we want to address today.
I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is that we limit the power of our words. We limit the power of our experience. We limit the impact of the research and the time and the effort that we put into our work. And we put it in a box. We put it in a box and say it can only fit in certain areas and in certain spaces. In a lot of ways, we want to demystify that perspective today and give you some practical examples from our lives on how you can leverage what you've already learned or what you already teach and apply it in more than one space.
Absolutely. So this is what we have been doing, Pierre. I think you do this well, but we've never really talked about it in this way. People
Yeah.
will come to us and say, "Hey, I'm a speaker. I'm a pastor, for instance.
Mhm.
I teach children in my work as a youth leader or children's leader. I'm a teacher, and these are the lessons I'm sharing. But I don't really have anything to say to organization. And
Mm.
through the work that we do, one of the things I've seen you do very well is help people reframe the things that they're already sharing to find a message that is a marketplace ready message. So let's talk about that. And before we do, Pierre, to help everyone by defining that term that I've been saying over and over, marketplace. What is marketplace?
When we talk about marketplace in general, we're speaking on any place or space that is not specifically the church.
Okay.
When we talk about a marketplace ministry or a marketplace offering, it's an offering that you would make to people that is not necessarily in a religious context. But speaking of religious context, you mentioned that people say I'm only used to speaking in churches, and I don't know if I have a message that outside the church people would be interested in. And there are two times in a traditional, more or less traditional contemporary worship service or worship experience or church experience that you are guaranteed to have everybody paying attention two
What are those
times.
two? What are those two?
The second one is closing prayer. People are trying to leave.
Yeah.
The second one is closing prayer. The first one, believe it or not, is the children's story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You are going to have everybody in the congregation, because as human beings, we are attracted.
Yeah.
We are attracted to a good story.
Yeah.
And even if you're not telling a good story, we're still going to lend you our time and attention for that 3, 4, or 5 minutes, with the hopes that in that duration of time, you'd have something really, really insightful to share with us. And if you come from a ministry background and you're really, really good at telling children's stories, you could be really, really good as a marketplace speaker, leveraging the same principles and ideas.
Yeah. So what we said today, now this is coming from both of our experiences with messages that we've shared in one context
Mhm.
and moving it into another. So we said, how about we do this live? Okay, so Pierre, one of your talks, maybe one of your signature talks, is tell us how that got started, because I think this is going to lend itself to the exercise we're going to do.
Yeah, yeah. I see GP hanging out with us, and Pat Graham hanging out with us too. Good to see y'all hanging out with us. My signature talk, the keynote that I'm leveraging for 2026, is called Inside Out, and it's based on 7 key questions that leaders need to leverage for self-leadership. Now, here's a story behind that. And we won't use the specific origin content today. We're going to use different origin content and do it live.
Yeah.
But for the keynote that I'm teaching on this year, it came from, I say it came from a devotional thought or sermonic idea that wasn't delivered the best, or I felt like it didn't get the best reception or the intended reception that I thought the message was going to get. And I knew that there was still something there, even though I didn't preach it or deliver it the best in that moment, that there was more to it than just that sermonic, devotional, Friday evening
Yeah.
worship type experience or thought or Bible teaching. So I kept playing around with it, kept pulling on it, and someone gave me the opportunity to deliver a talk to a group of leaders. And I said, I'm going to pull from that devotional idea, from that sermonic thought. And it was really the story of Elijah and Elisha. And I had these 7 questions that ran through the sermonic idea. And I simply just pulled those questions out of the sermonic idea and placed them into a training workshop, or at the end part of a keynote. And I'm telling you, man, the reception from that has been unbelievable. So much so that I isolated that part, and now it's its own training, this concept of what it means to lead from the inside out and how you need to leverage these 7 questions. And the 7 questions came from a devotional. It came from a Bible story.
Of course, it goes without saying, as you're presenting at companies and
Mhm.
organizations, you know, you're obviously not quoting these Bible verses and turning people turn to this stuff. You have found a way to share the same message with the same impact without using the text.
Yeah, I think that's really important. One, I firmly believe that the impact or the power of the message stands without even specifically quoting chapter and verse. From a preaching standpoint, from a church standpoint, we do that all the time. We'll we will give you a piece of a story or an idea with the assumption that you already know what we're talking about. So we won't give you a specific, sometimes biblical reference as we're putting our messages together or we're illustrating a point. I believe that the principle lasts, and it doesn't necessarily need the specific annotation of the chapter and the verse and the reference point in that way. The other part is organizations aren't bringing you in to pastor them. They're not bringing you in to give them a Bible study. They're bringing you in for a sense of organizational transformation. And your thoughts can be rooted in biblical ideas, but they're not bringing you in under that auspice. So, how can you give people the same message? How can you repackage what is solid, what is good, what is universal, what's long lasting in a way that's going to be really, really palatable to them? Perfect example of this, man. I'm a believer, and Jesus did this all the time.
All the time.
He's telling stories. He's not giving necessarily Old Testament, because that was the Bible of Jesus' time, the Old Testament. He wasn't giving necessarily Old Testament references. He's giving them stories that were relevant to their context. And for some of them, who got it. They got it. For others, he had to explain more deeply. But it was the stories packaged the universal principles in a way that anybody can pick up the story and run with it if they wanted that type of transformation. And I'm a believer, man. And you know we've done this. I'm a believer that all of us can do something similar.
Absolutely. And listen, we've done this for people in our mastermind program, and they've come in with a message, and we've helped them to see how that message that they've been sharing in one context has value in other contexts that can get them paid. So let's do this now live. This is what I'm excited about. Those
Yeah.
who are on live now, get a pen, some paper, interact with us in the comments. We want this to be an interactive experience. Let's talk about how we do this together. So Pierre, it seems like you have a message that you shared somewhere else.
Yeah.
You have not done this
No.
before, so we're gonna be doing this live. We're gonna crowdsource this together.
This
So
is
let's do it.
we got G. Anthony Graham hanging out with us and Olympia Roach. I love what Olympia puts. Reframing is the work. Reframing is the work. Swap church terms for shared human terms. Oh, that's gold.
Yeah.
Swap church terms for shared human terms. Trust, resilience, conflict, purpose, habits, leadership. Same message, wider audience, stronger reach.
That's strong.
We're going to be doing some of that in real time. So that comment comes at just the right time. Can I give a little bit of context?
Yeah,
Come
let's
on.
go.
All right. So just a little bit of context. I was invited last year to give to preach a sermon in Miami. Preach a sermon in Miami. My good friend Pastor Nikolai Graves invited me to come and share, and he pastors a church called Mount Pisgah. That's the name of his church. Now, for me, whenever there's like a preaching assignment, certain things are very important to me and how I'm framing up the responsibility. So I knew, and it was a church anniversary year for them. All of that was sort of coalescing on this moment. I knew I wanted to do something, a play on the name of Mount Pisgah and the importance of that church transition, all of the standard things that happen in the ecosystem of church life. So I decided to find out where Pisgah is mentioned in the Bible.
Okay.
Give you the context so we can sort of coach through how we can pivot this for a wider marketplace message. And I settled on Deuteronomy chapter 34. Deuteronomy is it's called the fifth book of Moses. It is part sermon, it is part song, it is part instructions. It is Moses's farewell address, sermon, journal entry, charge and challenge to his people. And Moses delivers this charge on Mount Pisgah.
Okay.
So that's the setup for this. This is how I got there.
Okay.
And I decided to give the message the title of The Name You Carry. This is the sermon title, The Name You Carry.
Okay.
And what I'm nudging or what I'm pulling on is, what does it really mean to carry the name Mount Pisgah?
Okay.
So that's the setup. That's the backdrop of how we got to the sermonic exercise. And if you're just joining us, we're talking through what's the process, what's the framework, or what's the insight on taking something that we already teach. And again, this is nudged a little bit toward people who come from a faith-based community. But you can pull this from any other, your teachers. You already teach English literature. Yeah. How can you pivot teaching English literature into insights that organizations will pay for? You teach driver's education. You work at a culinary school. How can you take some of those same principles and frame them for a professional development day, for a workshop, or for a keynote, for a conference? That's what we're talking about today. And the backdrop of this is a sermon that I preached a couple of months ago.
All right, let's go.
So here's the setup piece, man. The setup piece is, because the title of the message is The Name That You Carry. I'm pulling on this idea of Mount Pisgah. I haven't necessarily revealed that to them, but here's the setup. I start talking about Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
And here's why I'm talking about Shedeur Sanders. I'm really talking about Shedeur has unfair scrutiny placed on him as a football player because, and like my actual sermon notes, because his father was a superior two-sport athlete
Mm-hmm.
His father played in both the World Series and the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
His father is a two-time Super Bowl champ, a Hall of Famer, and has taken two college football programs as a coach to national recognition. Because his father is prime time,
Yeah.
Coach
Dion.
Prime, Deion Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking about this idea that Shador is wrestling with the weight, with the challenge. Here's the line from the sermon. Shador is wrestling with the weight, the challenge, and the opportunity connected to a name that he did not choose.
Okay.
This is the weight of the
Mm-hmm.
name that you carry.
Okay.
So as I'm thinking about this, I'm saying, okay, so Pierre, how would you flip this? How would you remix this? Say this was a keynote. Say you're talking to 200 lawyers, or you're talking to 300 school nutrition leaders or lunch ladies in the middle of Colorado. What would you start with based on this framework? I might not use Shador.
Okay.
I might if I'm in Colorado, because
Right.
he played there, but I might not use Shador. I may ask them to think about the most dependable person in your life. Think about a teacher, think about a former boss, think about a relative, the most dependable person that you know in your life. And how do people respond when that person's name is mentioned? When you think about maybe the town mechanic, when you think about your ninth grade math teacher, your dad, your mom.
Mm-hmm.
When people hear this name, what are some of the things that come to mind? And I may throw some adjectives on the screen behind me if I'm using visuals that day. And then I say, what might it feel like being related to this person?
Mm.
Because my name is Quinn. I carry the last name Quinn, and growing up in my town of Pontiac, Michigan, when people found out that I was my dad's son, like their whole disposition would change. Oh, you're Bill Quinn's son, and it's some opportunity, some esteem that's placed on me because of a name that I carry, but I did not choose.
Right.
So I got them starting to think about names, and then I'm gonna flip it, man. I want us to talk about, for the rest of our time together in our keynote, maybe 42 minutes, or I'm going to pull some obscure time to capture their attention. In the 42 minutes, I want us to think about the name you chose to carry, because you chose to be a manager. You chose to be a supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to be a C-suite leader. You chose to be a coach. And what are all the things that come along with the name that you chose to carry versus the name that you didn't choose to carry? I'm just pulling sermonic content.
Now, let me ask you this, because I think this
Yeah.
is good for us as we are now moving into this different context, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes some preachers in the sermonic parts, they'll start with the text, and they'll start with the historical, and they'll start in that story. But it sounds like, and hopefully for those of you who are watching, if you're tracking with this, just put yes in the comments, man. Just let me know that y'all leaning forward into this
Yeah.
masterclass. Um, it sounds like you are pulling them into the setting of what is happening. You're making them centered inside of what's happening as the beginning of the presentation.
So part of my background too, and people will say, well, that's cheating. That makes it a little easier for you. Whatever. Leverage whatever skills, experiences that you have, and don't make excuses for them. So my undergraduate and first graduate degree is in communication.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really, really concerned about story.
Mm-hmm.
We know as humans, what's a human being's favorite topic?
Themselves.
Themselves. So my approach to a sermonic idea, which is really this very similar to my approach to keynote speaking and training, I want there are a handful of stories that I want the listener to engage in. I want them first to think about themselves because they're already thinking about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So sermonically, I want you to think about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
either explicitly or implied. That's why I I lean with more toward the Jesus approach of giving you a story or a parable that you can relate to or some form of fashion. So once you can see yourself in that, then
Mm-hmm.
I can transport you to a biblical context,
Okay.
because the biblical context is so far from you.
Yeah.
You don't know that world.
Yeah.
But if I can show you how the world that you live in now is connected to that world, it's easier for you to make that transition, so that when I start unpacking the biblical idea, you can say it makes sense to me.
Got it.
That's
Okay.
just my approach.
Okay. So you help us, right? Like we just talked through this. The name you carry versus the name you choose. Now that
Mm-hmm.
we're here, even if I were using the sermon, that you could have gone. So the Bible story we're going to go to now. For those of us where we're transitioning, translating this, where do you go to next, Pierre? How do I take that core message that I've shared in one context
Yeah.
and move it into another?
So from there, you telling the story of Dion and Shadur, and then presenting that central question. Like, central questions just work for just rhetoric in general. I mean, that goes all the way back to Greek thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the question that I asked the church.
Mm-hmm.
How do we respond to the weight, the challenge, and the opportunity connected to carrying the name Mount Pisgah?
Okay.
Because the name of the church is Mount Pisgah, and a lot of people don't know. They may not know the story of Pisgah in the Bible and the relevance of that, and how it applies to their church, and then what it means for today.
Okay.
I would ask a congregation, you know, we talked about it before, the weight, the challenge connected to carrying the name, or the name you chose or the name that you didn't choose.
Okay.
Then if I was preaching it, I would transition to, I transitioned to the backdrop of Deuteronomy 34,
Mm-hmm.
Moses' life, the biblical significance of Pisgah. It's a part of a mountain range, mountain geography in the Bible, what mountains typically symbolize in scripture, all the amazing things that have happened in mountains before Moses gives this address, and then even after, looking forward, looking down the road.
Okay.
Now, if I'm teaching this in a
Oh,
training session, or I'm
yeah.
giving a keynote,
Yeah.
I'm probably going, like, thinking in real time, I'm probably going to pull the story of maybe a famous mountain climber,
Okay.
of someone who climbed Everest. Everest stories are an easy pull,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what would it, could you imagine what it would be like to be at the top of the mountain? How hard you had to work to get there, how much preparation goes in. You don't just wake up one day and say that you're going to climb a mountain. It takes a lot to be able to get there.
Mm-hmm.
the so I would pull some famous story out, National Geographic or Guinness World Records, or some story, some relatively famous mountain climbing story. Now, even if the story is not famous to the audience, I will tell the story in a way that will want the audience to go back and research the story.
Okay.
That's very, very, very important, because remember, the idea is you want the audience to be able to see themselves in the picture, even if it's just an independent observer that's watching someone climb the mountain. You're standing close enough to feel the coldness of the wind and hear the crunch of the snow and all those things. You want to use all of your senses, and that's one of the things that we miss out on as speakers. We don't claim the opportunity for people to use their senses as you're delivering content to them. So I'm going to pull a mountain story. It may not be necessarily a mountain story. I could go with, did you see the thing on Netflix a couple of weeks ago, man? Skyscraper Live.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might pull Skyscraper Live,
Right.
because this idea of the purpose of the analogy, or I will pull in, I can't even remember the guy's name, but what does it mean to be a climber?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Or a free, I can't remember what they call climbing without ropes. If people remember, you can throw that into the chat for us. But to say you're going to be a climber without ropes, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
What is the preparation that goes into that? who is depending on your progress and your survival? How does you getting to this point impact and inspire so many more people who didn't believe that this was possible for them? Because I'm keynoting to a group of leaders, so I'm making it now definitively a leadership context.
Okay.
Right? I've given them an opening story.
Mm-hmm.
I've given them a key question challenge that brings them in.
Okay.
Now I'm going to transition to more explicitly to their role. And
So
I
let's say,
can do it with a mountain story. I can do it with a corporate story. I can do it with a famous leader story. Maybe
mm-hmm.
somebody that climbed the mountain in their organization and all the challenges that they had to face that came along with that.
Okay. This is good. Those
So,
of you just coming on, we are workshopping Pierre live, taking a sermon he preached, turning into a keynote that you're gonna give. You're gonna give to
oh yeah,
organizations.
I'm gonna give this now. I'm doing this work. I'm gonna get free solo climbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we set up here, and I've told two stories in quick succession. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The group, and some of us think, well, is the story relevant because I didn't play football? Is the story relevant because I've never climbed the mountain, or I've never climbed a corporate ladder, or I've never bungee jumped or skydived? Is the story relevant if it's not my story? Yes, the story is still relevant and impactful. You tell the story like it's your story. You own the story like it's your story, and then admit the parts that don't directly connect with you. So if I'm talking about Shador, I would ask, hey, has anyone in here played high school or college football?
Mm-hmm.
You get some hands. One of my favorite things to do is ask people to spell a word. Like it's a joke that always works. Is anyone in here played high school football, college football, or can spell the word football? Oh, that's everybody. Okay, so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
I tell that story, tell some sort of mountain climbing, height climbing, expedition experience, because I'm pulling it directly from the sermon here. And then I ask people.
Yeah, tell us what was in the sermon, and now let's see how you're going to translate this.
Because I did the mountain experience with Moses. I'm either going to do the skyscraper live free solo climbing or some sort of mountain, some Everest story.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm talking about the idea is that people have expectations whenever there's a climb involved. Mm-hmm. That's sermonically, right? We expect views. We expect, from a biblical context, we expect revelation, we expect decision, we expect transformation, we expect all these amazing things to happen once we commit to going on a climb. Mm-hmm. If I'm flipping it to a marketplace context, I'm saying the same words, but my landing is going to be different. When you go when people experience a climb, they're looking for views, they're looking for an awe-inspiring perspective, they're looking for a sense of accomplishment, they're looking for a sense of transformation. Mm-hmm. And they're looking for you to help them get there.
Wow. This is a leadership talk.
This is a leadership talk, because by choosing the name, by choosing director, by choosing vice president, by choosing manager, by choosing the name, you have committed to taking people on a journey. Yeah. You've actually committed to taking people on a climb. And no one goes on a climb without expectations. So here's my question. To all the leaders in the room, and you don't have to answer out loud. You don't have to turn to the left or the right. Just keep your eyes focused on me, or you can jot this down. Is the leadership journey that you are taking people on living up to the expectation? Is it living up to the expectation? Because you said we're going on a climb. You said when I onboarded, you told me, you came and shook my hand and you said you were my vice president. You said that you were my senior director. You said that you were my program lead. And the fine print said that I would be committed to going on this journey with you. And I know that work is not easy. It's a climb. But going on this climb, I'm going to expect to see some good views. I'm going to expect some transformation. I'm going to expect, because you go on a climb with someone, you build this kinship and camaraderie and connection. I'm expecting all of that to happen on this journey, because if it doesn't, I'm probably going to leave the climb before we get to the summit.
Mm, mm.
Now think back on your organization the last couple of years. How many people have left, not because they had a better job offer, not because it was a unique opportunity somewhere else. How many people left your team? Or your team is intact, your team is good, I'm not talking about y'all. How many people left the organization because the expectations did not match the journey that was promised? I know what happens. So here's what I want to equip you with. I want to equip you with how to manage expectations on the climb related to the name that you chose to carry.
Man, hold on. You got to pause there. You got to pause there because this is so good. And we're going to wrap up in about 3 to 5 minutes. But here's what principle you just did. You just took a message and you related it to the organizational problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important for us. It feels like there's some things we need to pull out. What is the problem we're going to be addressing? What's the context I'm in? And how the message I've already had, how can that address the problem in the context that I'm going into?
The thing that's so different from sermonically, that's different. You know, as pastors, preachers, as people who occasionally give sermon talks from time to time, there's a sense of mystery and intrigue that is built into the sermon. I'm not necessarily telling you where I'm going. I want to surprise you by getting you there. You got to see the hook, that homiletical spiral, as they teach us, that aha moment.
Yeah.
In training and workshop and keynote, we don't want no aha. We don't want surprises in that way. Well, I'll put it differently. Decision makers are not looking for surprises. They want the notes. Tell me exactly what's going to happen. Give me your slides before. I want it to be clear that the stories that you talk about, the transitions that you make, the insight that you pull out is going to be directly related to the organizational problem that we're having. And if you can do that consistently, then you'll consistently get paid.
I love it. Listen, so I think you just demonstrated, Pierre. First of all, you need to make sure you go give that talk somewhere, because that thing is fire. That thing is fire. I think it demonstrates for us. There is a message that you've given somewhere. You watching us right now, watching either on the live or the replay. You've given this message. You've used scripture and verse and chapter. You've used your curriculum from your school that you've been teaching at. You've used whatever it is. And what we're showing is, if we can find the lesson in it through that sentence that you gave, the organizational problem, and now find ways to pull the people who are in that context into the story and then illustrate the answers, you're actually able to get paid, get results for them, and get paid over and over again for the same message. Because I guarantee you that Pierre is not going to just give this talk to an organization one time. This talk we were just part of the creation of this talk that you will get paid quite well for. You're going to give this over and over. And as a transition, I think if you are anywhere in the Florida area, I need to get your attention really quickly, because we want to help you do this live. We want to help you do this in person. We will be in the Orlando area, really a Apopka area, on February the 22nd and 23rd. So if you can drive there, you can fly there, you need to get there, because we're going to be doing two things. The first is a 1-day, 3-hour workshop where we're going to walk you through how to find your message, how to get the right mindset, and how to use the methodology to find paid speaking gigs in the marketplace. It's a billion-dollar industry, and there's more training opportunities than there are people to fill those training opportunities. And so what you're already teaching, can be useful. So if you are interested in that, we're going to put a link for that. And then on that Monday, if you are if you want a deeper dive, you want to actually develop your message and get on a stage and share it, and then
Hmm.
have the assets to walk away to show others yourself in a environment sharing it, we'll have the opportunity for you. So I'm going to put a link in the chat, and I'm going to put a graphic on the screen to show you how you can take advantage of our Sunday training on February the 22nd. You would simply go to paid2speak.eventbrite.com. That's paid2speak.eventbrite.com. If you go to that website, go to it now. It is really only $50 to get a spot, and we have limited spots in the room. But we will be there live. So this is not online. This is live and in person. We're gonna give you our best teaching, our best training, and have time for interaction so you can workshop through some of the stuff we talked about here for your talk, for your message, for your training that you're going to do, that you've done, and that you're going to do in a different context. And then those of you who want to be a part of what we're doing on the Monday as well, there's a special link for that. But if you send me a message, I'll make sure I get you the info for the Monday full experience that we've walked multiple people through now who have gone on to make 5K and beyond for their speaking. Pierre, as we wrap up, talk to us, man, about why they need to be there.
You, you said it's $50, right?
Yeah.
You said $50, and then people have gone on to make 5K
Okay. Uh-huh.
based on what we've taught them. In 3 hours, give you a master class. We do not gatekeep. We don't hold anything back. Now you're the business person. If I invest $50 and I get the tools and resources to generate $5,000, what's the increase?
Man, that's 100%, 100-fold.
That's a 100-fold. And the things that we're teaching you in this 3-hour masterclass and subsequently in our fuller mastermind, the things that we teach you, you can repeat them over and over and over and over again. And we're helping you unlock the reality. And I love how D. Rich Henderson put it in the chat. Are you saying I already have the tools and resources to meet needs outside the realm of where I'm already meeting needs? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And for many of us, you just need somebody to come along and help you, coach you through a process, give you the framework, help you transition, twist the Rubik's Cube just a little bit and see what the bigger possibilities are. And that's what we'll gladly do with you in Florida and beyond. So you need to sign up for this, because $50 for that investment, that return on investment is astronomical if you commit to putting in practice the things that we teach you. And we have the testimonials of the people who have done this. So we want you to be next.
Absolutely. And listen, if you are interested in the fuller, more in-depth experience, we're going to build your talk so that the same way that Pierre just delivered here for us, you can deliver, get a recording of it, have your professional assets that you need. Just send me a message. We'll make sure you have the info for that. If you're anywhere close to Florida, can drive to the Orlando area, can fly to you need to be there, because it's going to be an impactful, life-changing opportunity for you. So listen, have a great rest of your Tuesday. Go find a message that you've given somewhere and try and apply some of these principles and bring it to Apopka February the 22nd. We want to help you workshop it out there. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see y'all there or online sometime.